Welcome back everybody to reviewing stage 2 of our rock tumbling process. This stage was our 120-220 silicone carbide grit. We left our Michigan stones in there for about 3 to 4 days compared to our 7 to 10 days we did for stage 1, because clearly they need a lot less time than our agates do. But for our agate rocks, we still kept them in there for 7 to 10 days just because they are a little bit harder of stones. So I'm just going to go through a high level of me going through how I clean my rocks through each stage of the tumbler, review a couple of the stones, and really just put it back into stage 3. So just giving a high level overview of all I do when it comes to the fun of rock tumbling. So without further ado, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy. So this is about 4 days after letting it be in 120, 220 silicone carbide grit. And this time I was a lot more careful of how much time I put it in there. When I dumped it out, again, the slurry was already done. All the grit was utilized, so that's always a good sign. A couple things, at least right now, as I'm letting my rocks dry, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, and I've heard different things from each. Are you supposed to keep your rocks wet after a certain stage? I've heard answers from both spectrums that yes, after a certain stage, keep them wet the entire time, don't let them dry out, versus the latter. So curious to hear your thoughts on that. I just separated my rocks from the ceramic pellets, even though it's kind of unnecessary, because they're going to get thrown in together again. But I'm just going to highlight some of the rocks, see how this one turned out. I see there's a lot of pitting, and maybe as I become more of a pro at tumbling, which is a lot to go, I will focus on putting them in the first stage longer to kind of wear those away more, or at least aligning the different rocks with their appropriate partners. I've heard Rob told me specifically that he only tumbles Petoskey Stones together, so maybe as I get more variety of rocks, I will start to plan more accordingly which rocks to put in the tumbler batch together, because they all tumble at different kind of necessities. So I'm just going to highlight some of the rocks, show the next grit we're going to go into. My other batch of rocks I'm still going to let tumble for about 5 more days, and we'll be back to show you the rest of that. So let's highlight a couple of these rocks. I love the Puddingstone. I think that just looks gorgeous. Love all that crack going on in these, I believe they're pieces of jasper. But man, I just love it. It's pretty smooth. I know maybe people would see that crack and really want to tumble that out, as well as maybe that one. But overall, I really like the looks of that one. This one's also a very, very smooth piece of unikite. I really like how that one turned out. Again, a few indentations, and if maybe that's a little bit more picky, I would spend some more time to tumble those out. But I just want to see how they turn out in the finished product. This one's turning out beautifully. Again, I thought this one was Petoskey. I'm not quite sure if that is actually what that stone is, but it's just absolutely gorgeous. And what I have left of a Petoskey stone, still love to see the fossilized patterns in there. Again, bummed that the size and it breaking off. There's a few other little pieces of chunks of the Petoskey Stones scattered around, but I guess we'll see if I can just make some nice polished chips. This is a cold water agate, I believe, that Maple provided me. And a lot of stuff going on in here, maybe with the pitting, so maybe it's not going to turn out too well, but again, that's what the learning is for. And this one I found on a river in northern Minnesota here. I'm not quite sure what this is. It looks like normal post rock on the outside here, or maybe a type of oolitic jasper, but this top right here, it's just gorgeous. It's translucent and waxy. I don't know if that's a piece of chert that just embedded itself on top, but I just love this stone, so I'm excited to see how this turns out polished. So I'm just gonna reload the barrel back up. Finish it with some ceramic pellets again. I'll just use the same ceramic pellets. They can go through quite a few cycles before you can get it worn down. Also, thank you everybody for leaving comments in regards to how to pry off the lid of these tumblers a lot easier. Most of you mentioned to utilize the washer. That's part of the lid to seal it down, and it popped right off. So that was such a helpful tip for me. It really helped reduce the struggle quite a bit. So let's see, that's probably fine. I'll save the rest of these pellets, and then we're going to use 500 aluminum oxide for stage 3. I'm going to use a little bit less. I know I've been using about a scoop and a half. The rocks are getting quite down there in size, so I don't think they're going to need a whole lot of grit. I'm probably just going to call a half a scoop good. A little bit more. Clearly I'm running out and I need to order some more from the rock shed. So I'm going to fill this up. I know Rob gave me some tips that he typically puts in a half cup of water in a 3-pound barrel, but he tends to double it looks like, for these softer stones, so I'm probably going to put in a full cup of water, seal it up, and then we're going to put it back on the tumbler. So what I have here is I have my old 1-pound tumbler. I kind of just do that because otherwise if I just leave one on here, I've just experienced it goes back and forth. Sometimes it'll wobble off and kind of get stuck, so I'll do that as a replacement. Those are the agates in there, so I'll just push that back, put those back on, and then I'm going to check those again in 4 to 5 days, and this will be ready in another 4 to 5 days. So I'll be back to see that part. So this is the second batch of our rock tumbling. We had this one in the stage 120/220 grit. The first batch I left for about 3 to 4 days. Those were the Michigan stones. For agates, I typically leave them for 7 to 10 days. This one I left for about 9 or 10 days, so about the maximum that I typically leave them in. They look to be in pretty good shape. Again, this is the one with a lot of small ones, but I just want to highlight a few of the beautiful pieces. So this one I'm super excited about. This is my friend Brock's rock that he found on a dirt road, and I'm super excited. I think this one's coming out great. There's beautiful bands on this one. This one is very unique. We call this one the Saturn stone just because I feel like it just looks like Saturn planet right there embedded in this agate, which is super cool. Not sure if there's any other quite as prominent ones as those. They're pretty typical agate size. Again, I use these. The reason I tumble a lot of these small ones is because I use them just in different types of art projects that I like to do, and because they all have beautiful little bands, and then there's not as cool as the big ones to some people, but I just enjoy every shape and size. But this is just a piece of jasper, pretty pretty nice. Again, I'm not too picky at this point in the stage, whether if they got cracks or not, maybe later down the road, but we're gonna move this one on into the aluminum oxide 500 grit. We'll do that one for about 7 to 10 days, and just throw that back on for the tumbler, and hopefully get the rest of those little things out. I'm gonna keep the ceramic pellets in there the rest of the time, just to make sure that there's no leftover scratches. So I'm gonna load it up and throw it back in the tumbler. You can even see, compared to our Michigan stones from our friends, that the size of these rocks do not go down nearly as much. And I believe agates are about a hardness level of 8 on the scale, and compared to maybe Petoskey's, they must be a lot less, because we have not lost much mass. I should start to weigh them beforehand to see, but just thought that was kind of a different point of view, because our other ones were, man, half the size down the barrel. This, we lost a lot of mass. So I'm gonna top it off with the polish and the water, and we'll throw it on the tumbler. Well, that's the last bit of my aluminum oxide grit. I checked the rock shed, and they're currently out of stock right now. I know I could probably look for a different location to get it. But this is probably gonna be my last batch for a little bit, so I can be a little bit more patient. Plus, to get to this stage again, it takes 3-4 weeks. So I'm not too worried, but that's the last of it. Good luck in there, buddy. See you in 7 to 10 days. See you in like less than 12 hours. And that's going to do it for our second part of our rock tumbling. They're both in there in that 500 aluminum oxide grit. We'll let them run. I'll pull them at their appropriate time frames, and then we'll show you what they look like and prepare for stage 3. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next video.